Well, I'll be good goddamn. Can you guys believe what we just witnessed in this episode? And I know a lot of people already got a hold of leaks and read descriptions of the episode on pirated platforms to get details, and somehow in the hell you think that I did the same thing. Yeah, it gets tiring telling people you're pressed. But for those of you who didn't spoil it for yourselves, I'm sure this episode shocked the hell out of you, just like it did for me when I first saw the episode a few weeks ago. Guys, I have been waiting to discuss this with you all for a while now, so I'm not going to waste any more time. Let's dive into the recap so we can finally discuss the elephant in the room. So the episode begins in the diner where we left off, with Boyd explaining to Miss Lou his reasoning behind keeping Sarah a secret, and basically how he needs to utilize every resource he has to get everyone home, and Harold Perrineau is acting his ass off in this scene. Then Kenny walks in the diner still upset with Boyd, understandably, and then Boyd leaves to head over to the church where the weirdest shit begins to happen. The ballerina that Boyd has been seeing in the music box goes full Indian in the cupboard on us and actually turns into a real life ballerina. And if there's any true 90s kids watching this video right now, then you should completely understand that reference. And if you don't, well, shame on you. She begins to prance around and do her dance on that hoe, and in this moment Boyd isn't sure which way is up. Then after getting Boyd to join in, she gets right in his face and spits out a mouth full of those worm parasite bastards, just like the ones that are crawling around inside of Boyd. Also, I think this is where the title of the episode comes into play. Pas de deux, which is French for step of two, which means a dance for two people, typically a man and a woman, just like we're seeing right now. Afterwards, we cut back to the diner where we see that Boyd actually never left. He just blacked out and started seeing shit. Then Kenny proceeds to take Boyd to the hospital to see Christy. Then we cut over to Colony House where Donna, Fatima, and Ellis are preparing to take down some rations to the townsfolk. And Donna tells them to make sure that Colony House is locked up tonight and secure since she won't be there. Then we jump over to Christy at the hospital where we find out that Marielle was lying about where she was going on the bus. She told Christy that she was going to visit her aunt, but she was actually going to rehab. She reveals to Christy that she had a little taste of that sweet liquid morphine in the cabinet. Then she tries to turn the tables on Christy by getting upset with her and storms off. Typical fucking junkie behavior. Then we jump back to Kenny and Boyd as they make their way over to the hospital. During this time, Kenny notices that the leaves on the trees are changing colors, and Boyd acknowledges that by saying, well, he's been noticing that as well, and that he's never seen it before. And if you guys recall, Victor points out the same thing in the previous episode with Jade. So apparently, wherever they are, it seems that the seasons never seem to change. In this moment, finally, Boyd decides to tell Kenny about the parasites inside of him. Of course, Kenny just thinks he's crazy, and then Boyd begins to hear the music box. Then we see the doors to the underground bunker just magically swing open, and the ballerina lady is back again. But this time, Boyd doesn't faint, and it's just an illusion. Kenny doesn't see anything and just stands there confused. Then we cut back to Colony House for a brief moment where we can see that everyone is preparing to lock up for the night. Ellis tries to talk to Fatima, but we can tell that something is bothering her, which we already know is the fact that she hasn't told him about the pregnancy. Over at the hospital, Boyd finally tells Christy the truth about the cut on his arm and how Martin gave him the parasites. And he also tells her the same thing that Martin basically told him, which is to put him out of his misery if things get out of hand. So remember, having the parasites is basically a torturous experience, and this is exactly why Martin wanted Boyd to kill him instead of being relieved of his pain by having to give it to someone else. In this case, he had to give it to Boyd to die. Also in this moment in the back of the hospital, Kenny is worried that the same thing that happened to his father is now happening to Boyd, with the dementia and him starting to lose his mind, but Christy assures him that it's too early for that. But this is her response because she doesn't know exactly what's happening to Boyd. Then we cut to Kenny's house where Donna is hooking up the Matthews with food, and they find out how bad things really are with the rations. Also in this moment, Jim begins to run away with his theory that whoever is watching them is the person who's behind the rations being low, and how they are doing this purposely to raise the stress levels of everyone, which who the hell knows? He might be right about that. Back at the hospital, we see Boyd still struggling with the parasites, and then we hear the music box playing again, and we see the silhouette of the ballerina behind a curtain. Boyd checks behind the curtain and doesn't see a thing. Afterwards, this super-powered white ballerina woman comes out of nowhere and throws Boyd on the bed. Then she covers his mouth, and I was thinking that Boyd had to be dreaming again because there is no way this woman overpowered him, but she's supernatural, so whatever. Then Marielle pops up out of nowhere and startles him, and he's like, oh my god, not another white woman, never again. But he catches himself and slowly comes to his senses. Back at Colony House, Ellis is trying to get the truth out of Fatima, who just wants to complain instead of just telling this man she's pregnant. In this moment, they can hear some commotion downstairs, and once again, it's Dale starting some shit, telling everyone how Elgin was stealing and how there's not enough food to go around. Which, if we're being honest, he's not completely in the wrong on this one. I'm sure a lot of others would feel this way if they found out about the food shortage. I mean, people tend to act crazy when there's not enough food to feed people. Dale throws a fit and decides to threaten all the new people to leave with a knife. Ellis tries to step in and get Dale under control, and Dale ends up stabbing him by mistake. And at this time, everyone tries to help Ellis to stop the bleeding, but it doesn't look good. Then we jump back to the hospital where we see Boyd staring at the wall where Kenny's father was killed. And then Father Khatri pops up again to tell Boyd that he shouldn't feel guilty for not being able to save those who were lost. And he tells him that he did what he could. And this goes without saying, of course, but we all know that this is just in Boyd's imagination. Then Kenny walks in to see that Boyd is talking to himself, and in this moment, Kenny is also aware that Boyd pulled out a gun on Marielle, and he feels like it's not safe to have him around everyone else. Back at Colony House, Fatima decides that her man is not dying tonight, and she plans to get the van so she can drive him to the hospital. But Elgin decides to step up and help, and runs outside to drive Ellis to the hospital. And this turns into what's basically been the most suspenseful moment of season 2 thus far. I mean, the whole visual from inside of the van is actually very creepy, and while Elgin is driving, you can hear the monsters screaming outside, and outside the van windows you just see fog and darkness. I mean, even while Elgin is driving, you can barely see where he's going, and this is just a really dope sequence in my opinion. But luckily they arrive safely at the hospital. And that's definitely hands down like top 5 favorite scenes thus far throughout the show. Elgin and Fatima stumbles in with Ellis, and Christy is able to save him by relieving the pressure off his lungs so he can breathe. But now they have a new problem. Ellis has lost a lot of blood, and the only matching blood type is Boyd. But Boyd has parasites in his blood, and if he were to help Ellis, that means he would also have to give him the parasites. Boyd once again tries to explain to everyone that he has worms inside of his blood, and just like always, they think he's crazy, and they are not trying to hear the foolery because they want to save Ellis. Kenny loses his patience and pulls out a gun on Boyd to force him to give his blood. But suddenly the parasites show up, and in this moment, finally everyone is able to see that Boyd was telling the truth. Then Kenny's like, well, fuck it. You said the guy in the cave gave it to you, so then you could just give it to me so you can save Ellis. But in this moment, Boyd has a bright idea. He decides to go outside and taunt the monsters, so he is then able to get close enough to cut one of them and give them the parasites. This idea pretty much goes exactly the way Boyd plans it. He's able to get close enough to Grinning Gary and transfer the parasites. He cuts his neck and we get to see that the monsters don't bleed. Because keep in mind, this is the first time we've ever seen one of them get wounded before, so all of this is technically uncharted territory. During this time, the monsters are having a damn good time playing with Boyd after he gives Grinning Gary the parasites. It takes a second to kick in, but then suddenly Grinning Gary freaks out and has some kind of monster seizure, and then he dies. Or at least we assume he dies, because he looks dead. And it's pretty interesting what happens afterwards. The monsters are no longer focused on Boyd in this moment, and he is able to escape and run back inside the hospital. But the really interesting thing is that the monsters now look confused, and they are no longer smiling. It looks as though they have never seen one of their own die before, which means Boyd has now reached like a whole new milestone in the history of this place, which is my own theory anyway. I think that the monsters are just as surprised as our characters are of what they just witnessed. Kenny, of course, is shocked as shit after Boyd gets back inside, and outside we can see the monsters just emotionlessly walk away from Grinning Gary's corpse. And yeah, they got a lot to talk about tonight in the monster caves. They're gonna be sitting around like, shit, did any of y'all know that we could die? Because the situation is still urgent, they don't really have much time to discuss what just happened because they have to save Ellis. And in the next scene, we can see Ellis is receiving the blood transfusion. And in the hallway outside the room, we see Marielle looking over at the medicine cabinet, just trying to contain that itch. Then we cut back over to Kenny's house where we see Ethan helping Donna carry some food downstairs. Ethan reveals to Donna that he's worried that the house will collapse again, and he also tells her that he lied to his parents and that he's actually afraid and that he doesn't want to be on a quest anymore. And she gives him a dope speech about how her mother told her that fear is something that lives in all of us, and how fear is what makes us heroes. And the actress Elizabeth does a great job delivering her lines in this scene. She is definitely the best talent on the show next to Harold Perrineau, which is something I don't tend to say enough. But she's awesome. Back at the hospital, Fatima reveals to Christy that she might be pregnant by requesting a pregnancy test. And in the final scene, we jump to Kenny basically apologizing to Boyd as they stare out the window at the monster corpse on the ground. In this moment, Kenny asked Boyd if the monster is dead, and Boyd responds with, "We'll find out soon enough." Alright, so are you happy now? For those of you who were ready to jump out of a window if you didn't get any answers soon, I think this is a huge milestone for the show so far. Seemingly, one of them has died. That's a big answer, guys. And in the next episode, we can expect to take an even deeper dive into what the monsters are. I'm honestly not much farther ahead than you guys are. I'm currently on episode 8, and as always, there are even more questions that have surfaced. And just like last year, once I get the final episode, I'll let you guys know my reaction and if I thought it was good or not. Also, how do you guys think they are going to try to use this situation to kill more of the monsters? I want to see what you guys' theories are on that below. And for a minute there, I thought it was a little strange that they allowed Boyd to be so close to them for so long without trying to attack. But I think that's just simply explained by the nature of the monsters and how they like to play with people before they kill them. So it's not that crazy that they didn't just immediately attack Boyd. But currently what I want to know is, what do you guys think about episode 6? Was it really worth the hype, or were your expectations much higher and you're still not happy? Also, I'm going to put up a poll in the community tab so I can get everyone's grade as well, because I really want to know what you guys thought about the episode. Either way, I'm still going to be entertained by everyone's responses, and I'll catch you guys down in the comments below. Until next time, thank you guys for watching.